Okay.
Just like in a meeting.
Gotcha.
They called me and hey,
All right, how we doing?
I know more about this than he does.
Okay, I would like to call the September 14th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting to order. It is 7 p.m. Please rise if you can for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Can we do the roll call?
Can you give me just a minute?
We sure can.
Okay.
Okay, it looks like we had a defective tape there for a minute.
Every time I do it, it's different.
Bill Thomas,
Here.
Ken Carroll. Here. Angelo DeSario. Jeff Peterson.
Here.
Jan Platow.
Here.
Cheryl Slabazeski. Here. John Stanton.
Okay, thank you. First order of business is I need a motion to approve the minutes from the August 10th Planning Commission meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Plateau, second by Commissioner Slabozowski. Roll call, please.
Jan Platow.
Yes.
Cheryl Slabazeski.
Yes.
John Stanton's not here. Jeff Peterson.
Yes.
Ken Carroll.
Yes.
Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have kind of a busy evening. Thanks for everybody that's going to be saying something for coming tonight. The first case that we are going to discuss is the PUD 22-2-9-2 for the Hillcrest Shopping Center at 1701 North Larkin. Is all the paperwork in order?
Yes, I have all the paperwork.
Okay, then to begin with, I would like to ask a motion for a motion to open the public hearing on case 22-2-9-2.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Jan, second by Ken. Okay, roll call, please.
Jan Platow.
Yes.
Ken Carroll.
Yes.
Jeff Peterson.
Yes.
Cheryl Slabazeski.
Yes.
Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So this case is about a request for a planned unit development and a special use permit for two new development projects being proposed at the Hillcrest Shopping Center. One is for the relocation of the Armed Services recruiting offices, and the other for a building addition for a Smoothie King restaurant. Tony, do you want to make some comments?
The only thing I'll add to that is this evening we have Mr. Abe Katz as well as some of his consultants here. Abe is the managing partner of the Hillcrest Shopping Center, and he will present this evening the PUD request, which is a two-part request.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Abe, if you're ready, glad you fought that traffic to get here, but would you please start by signing in there on the podium? Print your name and then sign it. And then raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you. First, let me also introduce my two brothers, David Katz and Ralph Katz, who are partners in the business. Tom Byte, who you may know as Bouchard Byte Architects, and Tom Carroll from our civil engineer. This is actually my first plan commission, so I'm not sure what I need to say. I can pretty much repeat what I said originally, and that is we've had the armed services in the center for 20 plus years. They continually change their security and operational requirements, and where they're currently located, we cannot accommodate their security and operational requirements. So we are proposing to build a building to relocate them. The building's about 8,000 square feet. They're going to take about 6,800, 6,900 square feet of the building and relocate so that they can have the security arrangements they need, the rear access that they need, TV monitors, AI doorbell systems where you just ring the doorbell and you can see the person on your telephone in the space. And all four services will be relocating there. Currently, the Army has two separate spaces, and the spaces that they have aren't large enough for them, so the space they're moving to will be the right size. Same thing is for the Air Force and the Marines and the Navy, so all the spaces that we're creating for them will now accommodate their current needs. We have about 1,200 or so square feet available. We don't yet have a tenant for that space, but I suspect that by the time we start construction and people see something happening, we'll get more phone calls and interests. The second opportunity we have is with adding to an existing building for a Smoothie King with a drive-through. And to that effect, I'd like to introduce Mr. Parth Patel, who is the owner of the Smoothie King. And I believe you have 5 others?
I have 9 open right now.
9 open right now, pardon me. And so Parth is a experienced operator of Smoothie Kings. And the Smoothie King will be about 1,466 square feet plus a drive-through. We have worked through pretty much with Tony the drive-through situation, the building locations, etc. We are currently also in with your third-party building department approval process with our plans, at least for the Army Recruiter building. We will hopefully next week or so submit plans for the Smoothie King building as well. I was going to tell you, we've owned the center since 1979. We've done major improvements to the center, all LED lighting, basically all new roofs in the center. We spend somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000 a year on parking lot, maintenance, repair, striping, seal coating. I'm not sure what else I can add. I mean, we're very happy to be in Crest Hill. We love the center. The center is basically 100% occupied at this point in time. And once the Army Corps moves to the new location, we'll have those spaces to lease. Those will be a little bit harder because they're on the side, but eventually we'll find someone for those spaces as well. And open to questions.
So, you know, in reading all the supporting documents, it looked like one of the first concerns was when you add new businesses, you add, you know, new cars and parking, and so parking was an original concern, but wow, you've got such a surplus of parking spaces that that doesn't appear that that's going to be any kind of an issue.
I believe, have somewhere around 7-to-1 ratio for parking, where typically it's a 4-to-1 ratio for shopping centers. So we're almost double that ratio.
Now, the Smoothie King will just be a drive-through, so parking really won't be necessary there, correct?
There's plenty of parking even if it's needed, but no, it's a drive-through only. Yeah,
And then you're adding on next to Stella's?
correct.
Okay.
So, a question for you, Tony. Have we gone over the 6 conditions with Mr. Katz that, you know, we're talking about making part of the approval?
I actually haven't spoken directly to Mr. Katz, but the staff report and the packet material were emailed last week, so I believe you've had an opportunity to look at it, I hope.
You could refresh my memory on it because I don't recall in particular.
Well, I apologize. With all petitioners, I usually send them, yes, correct.
So it's those 6. Take your time.
Okay, certainly number one.
I don't think there's necessarily any deal breakers in the 6 conditions, but it would be good if Mr. Katz had a chance to take a look at them.
The only one I don't understand is number 3, 20% of total four-sided architecture shall be comprised of masonry. I mean, the building is masonry.
Yeah, and I believe that's the
steel.
case. I just
Yeah.
reinforced the condition that's in our code, so it should be compliant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain that
Yeah.
our drawings are compliant. Yeah, I believe that we are meeting all these conditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have anybody else that wants to say anything on your behalf?
I don't
or,
know in particular that anyone wants to say anything. I suppose if you have any questions.
If it looks like you're winning, you probably don't want to say much more.
Sit up and shut up and sit down, right?
The special, yeah, we require a special use for the drive-through. There's no number assigned to it. Will it be the same number as the PUD number? Will that
Correct.
fall under that, on board with that?
You are correct, yes.
The only other question I have is on the drive-through. I noticed that at the end of at the drive-through, you've got a spot for two cars parallel.
Correct.
And is that where they're going to receive the product, or is that
No.
just for one to turn right and the other one to turn left?
No, the second space away from the building,
Yes.
farther from the building, is a space in case someone changes their mind and wants to drive out, or they've done their order and their order is not ready, or the other person in line at the window is waiting. They can drive past and they can park and
Okay.
get
Yeah,
their
I
product
assume
brought to
that
them. Yeah.
You're going to have somebody on foot bringing these things to these people in the
I-
cars, or? there might be some foot
Typically,
traffic there.
that's a possibility, right? I mean, I'm sure you've all been to drive-throughs where they said, please pull to the side, we'll bring your order out to you.
Okay, so that's like for a reorder or something like
For,
that?
for that, and for someone who changes their mind, decides, I decided I don't really want to have a Smoothie King, and they're able to drive out without waiting in line for everyone else in front of them.
Okay, fine, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anybody else on the city staff have a question or comment?
I'll just make a couple quick comments, and some of these are already in the staff report. So one, someone mentioned parking already, and they are technically in compliance, and there's a surplus of spaces, so even the spaces that are lost because of the new building construction, that's not an issue. I wanted to mention that early on, Mr. Katz and his group worked fairly rigorously with Maura Rigoni and Ron Wiedemann on the drive-through and the configuration there to make sure it's something that was acceptable. So some of these engineering things have really been worked out ahead of time. Another component to this is, and it's mentioned in the staff report, some relocation of utilities just because of where they are located now. Building footprints will be placed in some cases on top of utilities, and those will need to be relocated around the buildings in some cases. And I think one of I forgot which main, sanitary or water, or maybe even storm, is running through where the drive-through was. So there's some relocation occurring, but those engineering type items have been vetted, and we're working on them right now and in process.
Right, I can also add that we are working in conjunction with the Water Department and with the city engineer to accommodate future new water mains throughout the center. So we have changed some of our plans, and actually I think we may even be doing some of your work for you. I know we're going to get
There'll be a
paid.
cost share.
I don't
There'll
know.
be some type of
We're going to
cost
get paid for it? Okay, that's
share.
good.
There'll be
Good to know,
something.
right?
We don't know yet what. but-
We don't know yet, okay. But we will be doing that on behalf of the city to accommodate them and also to get our buildings done. I wanted to add one other thing. When I was at the city council meeting last month, 2 months ago. One of the commissioners council members asked about our signs, and to that, and that was the only comment, basically, only negative comment. So to that, and we've hired Express Signs to do some modernization on those signs. I don't know if they'll be completed, should be completed this year.
That's to upgrade your signs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Signs haven't been painted or touched for some time, so we were, and some we really hadn't even thought about, to tell you the truth. You know, we're just busy trying to lease space and do other stuff, and brought to our attention, and we are taking care of it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any of the commissioners have anything else you want to ask for?
Just one other comment, we have provided a staff recommendation recommending approval. There are 6 conditions, and if you choose to make that recommendation, there's also findings of fact that have been submitted by the applicant, and that's mentioned in the staff recommendation.
Okay. Okay, anybody from the audience that has anything they'd like to say about this particular case? All right, so being that there are no more questions, thank you, Mr. Katz. You can
Thank
sit
you.
down, and can I have a motion to close the public hearing on this subject?
I'll make that motion.
All right, we'll go with Commissioner Peterson, motion, and second by Commissioner Carroll. Public meeting is closed at 7:16. Yes, I'm sorry. If we have a roll call, thank you, Mike.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes.
Ken Carroll,
Yes.
Jan Platow,
Yes?
Cheryl Slabazeski,
Yes.
Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, can I have a motion to either approve or deny the request for the PUD 22-2-9-2?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Plateau,
Second.
second by Commissioner Curl. Any further comments? And can I have a roll call, please?
Jan Platow,
Yes.
Ken Carroll,
Yes.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes.
Cheryl Slabazeski,
Yes.
Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So the Planning Commission has approved the request, subject to the 6 accompanying conditions and the previously agreed upon PUD and special use standards. We will forward this approval recommendation to the City Council, but I just must comment that the Planning Commission is only a recommended body, and that the City Council will have the final say on what happens next. So do we have a date for when that might come before the city?
I think we're looking at a workshop
4th,
session on
3rd.
October 10th.
October 10th workshop?
It would be workshop, and then pending their positive decision, drafting the necessary ordinance.
Okay, so, Mr. Katz, obviously you would want to be there or send a representative there in case they have any questions. Like you say,
The 10th or the 12th?
October 10th
I
is a
believe it's the
Monday
10th.
Oh, okay.
for a workshop. Okay, thank you very much. We will move on to
Thank you.
We'll move on to the second item, which is a request for a zoning code text amendment to allow an adult-use recreational cannabis dispensary within the city of Crest Hill limits. Is all of the paperwork in order for that?
Yes.
It says I have to ask you that.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start this discussion off by having a motion for another public hearing.
Make the motion?
Commissioner Plateau, second by
I'll second that.
Commissioner Peterson. Roll call, I guess.
Jim Plateau,
Yes.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes.
Ken Carroll,
Yes.
Cheryl Slabazeski,
Yes.
Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Public hearing opened at 7:21. So this case is a request for a zoning text amendment to allow adult use recreational cannabis dispensaries in the city of Crest Hill. Tony, I'll throw it towards you for further discussion opening.
Good evening. This is a city-initiated text amendment, and we have Maura Rigoni here this evening, who has put together a draft text amendment ordinance, working with staff, and she will present the results of that and be able to answer questions if necessary. We also have Jason Apiola, Deputy Chief from the Police Department here, if you have any questions related to the law enforcement aspect or police-related aspects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So have you signed in, and do I need to swear you in since you're a city employee? All right, so if you raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Plan Commissioners. Back in October of 2013, the City of Crest Hill passed an ordinance permitting medical cannabis dispensaries as well as then medical cannabis cultivation. And then the time when recreational marijuana became legal in 2019, the city ordinance outright prohibited that. Then in July of 11th of 2022, the City of Crest Hill held a work session at City Council and directed staff to investigate proceeding to amend the ordinance to permit the adult use cannabis dispensaries within the corporate limits. Currently, right now, the proposal does not modify cultivation, as cultivation in the zoning ordinance is only related to those for medical, that we are not looking at proposing any changes in that. There are many uses that come with the cannabis. We are just focusing on that of the dispensaries. There's growers, transporters, and so forth. We are not looking at any modifications to that. So what we...
So craft growers,
Correct.
craft growers, regular growers, transport, and like same with infusion.
Correct.
All that stuff.
All of that,
Still prohibited.
correct. All of that is prohibited. The only thing that would be is for cultivation is that for medical. We just wanted to focus in, as the discussions that were centered around on the July 2022 were focused on just the dispensary, so we wanted to focus with that. So with that, what we did is we went around, looked at other communities and how they're regulating it, what were the items that they kind of focused in on, not just where they were permitting them, how they were permitting them, and were there any regulations put on top of this. We went to a number of communities throughout and kind of gathered a bunch of different information. One thing that was consistent, they were all special uses within the communities. That seemed to be the most. So looking at that in commercial districts and also in manufacturing districts as well. So looking at right now, the B2, B3, M1, which is how it was before with the medical was B3 and M1, but also including the M2. What we did is we looked at distance. A lot of the regulations were focused on distance between particular uses. Those that were centered around schools, daycare, residential, and other adult cannabis dispensaries, as to ensure that there was not a cluster of them as well. So with that, we looked through the numbers that were out there on how far away or prohibited, kind of that prohibition ring around particular uses. So with that, we looked at schools, daycares, and that would be primary and secondary, preschools, daycares at 750 feet. So any adult cannabis dispensary could not be located within 750 feet of those particular uses. And then as we look at other uses, such as residential uses, the consistency was around, some of them were a little bit higher, but also about 250 feet is what we're proposing today in terms of that, saying that adult dispensary could not be located within 250 feet of a residentially zoned property. And then also looking at other adult cannabis dispensaries, and that was a mile away. So you didn't have this kind of this cluster of them as well. Some other regulations that we did look at outside of just the distance was things such as that you can't have a drive-through, that you cannot engage in a delivery service, that also that it cannot be consumed on site, also looking at different prohibiting how it is displayed outside the windows as well. Outlining parking. Parking has always been, in what my research been, kind of this discussion point that we've had, and a lot of ordinances were not directed on where it would fall into, so we became very specific and said that this would be a general business, so there was no confusion on that. Some of the other items that we asked for, that you could not consume the product on site. Others that requiring a security plan to be submitted and reviewed and approved by the City of Crest Hill Police Department. That was kind of our safety, as opposed to instituting what would need to be to ensure that our law enforcement, that they must comply with all state regulations, and then giving the Plan Commission is any special use additional regulations that they should impose on there as well that they may see. So again, this is just to look at amendment. This is not for one, just amending the zoning ordinance to, in consideration if one should come forward. Again, they still have to be licensed through the state as well. So it's not, so there's kind of that lottery process as well. But just for the dispensaries, not touching any of the others, as we said, cultivation, infusion, transportation, craft growers, and so forth. Those would still be on the books in chapter, I believe it's 5, of the City of Ordinances being prohibited. So that's in summary of the text amendment before you. I can certainly answer any questions that you do have.
So if this passes, as Maura said, it would be a multi-step process. They A, have to have their state licensure. They would B, have to come before, obviously, Tony to talk about it, but they'd be in front of you for a special use recommendation and to the city council. So it's not as if after this amendment is passed, if it's passed, that it's just going to be an easy, breezy, automatic.
So we're doing this to kind of get ahead of the game, or do we have an interested party that,
I guess we're behind the game, so to speak.
Yeah.
When this was legalized a number of years ago, other communities took advantage of it much more quickly, such as Joliet, Romeoville, Mokina. I think they're referenced in an old memo. We chose to go the medical cannabis route, and quite honestly, a lot of communities, there was a lot of uncertainty. They didn't know if they wanted to go there or not. And as time has passed, we've realized that some of these problems that we thought were going to happen really didn't. It's become more mainstream nowadays. And honestly, and there's a reference in, I think, one of my earlier memos, the sales tax revenue generated is pretty significant. When we looked at Naperville, I think, has a license, as well as Joliet, Romeoville, Mokina. The lowest annual income from one of these licenses was around $400,000 sales tax revenue. So it piqued the city council's interest enough to want to revisit the subject matter and go through this process to see if it's something we want to pursue. Another thing that also would need to be instituted, just like we have liquor licensing, we would need to have I believe we would look to do one single cannabis license. That's really the reality. I don't expect that we would get more than that, and we probably want to limit it, but that's part of the process as well.
As Tony indicated, several of my other municipalities decided to sit on the sidelines and basically take the no approach and see how things shook out. And I think they were thinking that it was going to go the other way, that A, there wasn't going to be the kind of revenue generated, B, there was going to be the kind of police taxing of the police force, and instead it's actually gone the other way. So I think everybody's kind of that sat on the sideline is now trying to jump in to get, instead of ahead of the game, but to get even or catch up.
I'd like to make a comment. Don't forget the population of Naperville and Joliet is a lot larger than Crest Hill. We're around 22,000. Naperville's around 150, 160,000, so is Joliet. So of course they're going to produce more revenue.
yeah, good point.
And also, would this be used for medical and/or personal use?
The way that the, in reading through the act that was passed in 2019, that anyone who had the medical would then be able to, and you applied for the adult, there was actually a time period, I believe, and you're not, so I think I read right, that there was a time period that if you had medical, you could also just turn to have it adult cannabis. But then, yes, that this would almost say in a fashion absorb the medical aspect of it, if that's how your ordinance is written. Now, again, there are still communities that still hold, just like your ordinance does now, that it's just purely medical. And there still is the process in the state for just medical marijuana licensing.
I'm a little bit naive about marijuana, so forgive me for this next question. Doesn't a doctor have to prescribe it for medical?
For medical, yes.
So why is it not dispensed by a pharmacy?
I mean,
My suspicion is that it's still illegal federally, and I think pharmacists are not going to get in the business of potentially breaking federal law. That's just my supposition. It's not based on...
Yeah, because it's still illegal in other, I mean, it's...
It still could be prosecuted,
Yeah.
even though it's legal in Illinois. If the federal government wanted to come in and criminalize or charge it criminally, they could. They have chosen not to with all these states because I think it's going to be difficult to do. So that's why they're just kind of not doing it. But CDL holders, certain other people that are, federal law enforcement officers, they're still, even though it's legal in Illinois, they still can't to protect their licensure. And I think Jason can. You can't have a firearm, and doesn't it affect your ability to carry a firearm? And
There's different parameters with it, but generally speaking, the reason, moreover, as to why you don't see it as medicinal is because it hasn't been approved for medicinal and on a federal level. So there's the delineation between the two on that.
So then we're just here to pass this on. We're not here to say how many feet and all,
Well-
what kind of sign and all that for now.
That is
Just
part of...
pass it on and then wait till it comes back.
Well, right now, what's before is a text amendment. So there is a motion, there is an application initiated by the city for the text amendment for that. We've outlined in here distances for these individuals as additional regulations. So what we have in the zoning ordinance, much like we have other uses, we have these conditional uses. Yeah, you place conditions on special uses. We have a stock of them in our ordinance that are for specific ones. Like drive-throughs, we say they have to have so much stacking, and there's other types of uses that we have same conditions. So in your packet, where a text amendment is section 8.2, permitted and special use regulations, and that's where it outlines where it can be located. It can't be located within 750 feet of a pre-existing school, public and private, primary and secondary, preschools, daycare centers, nursery schools, daycare homes. It excludes things like vocational trade schools and that, but then dispensaries not located within 250 feet of a pre-existing residential property. Then we've outlined the dispensaries not located within another existing dispensary. So we have those outlined here as proposed text amendments and regulations put into place.
So what you're being asked to do is to change the current code to allow dispensaries only. All those other uses would remain prohibited anywhere in the city.
Correct.
Medicinal is still allowed, as it always was. This just changes the zoning code to say that dispensaries will be allowed so long as they're not within 750 feet of schools and daycares, etc., 250 feet of a residence, or 1 mile of another cannabis dispensary. And then there's a few other things in there, and it makes it a special use. So if you recommend it to the council and the council then approves it, if a dispensary that was licensed wants to approach the city and we say we want to put our dispensary in location X, they would meet with staff. If they meet the parameters, it would then come back to you. Dispensary X is now before you for a special use permit to go into location X, and you would be voting on that at a later time.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's no application at this time for a particular, in a particular location. And what we did is we looked at the zoning map and we identified where the schools, I worked with the clerk's office to understand, you know, who's the registered schools that we knew, who's the registered daycares and so forth, and look to see where in the city that it could possibly be and where just by nature of it that it just can't. Because there's certain areas where we have residential that is literally on top of commercial, that 250 feet automatically kind of eliminates those, as well as then we do have the schools and so forth that are, some are tucked in neighborhoods, which, you know, becomes moot, but then there's some others that are further closer to, you know, intersections of major intersections and so forth.
In
Yes.
terms of security, is that pretty well complete now? What I'm looking at is in terms of perhaps police presence at a dispensary like that, if we were to make this text amendment?
Well, the way that it is written right now, and I did talk to Tony as well, did we want to be very specific on the types of securities? Because there are some that are very pointed on what it is. And that's why we, going back and forth, felt that creating a security plan which has to be approved by our police department was probably the best way to go, because any location that it could be is always going to be different, and there may be something that, you know, lends itself to needing a little bit more in their eyes. So that was kind of our approach in that, to leave it up to preparing a plan, and it has to be reviewed and approved as part of a condition. So they can't come in here and come before you for a special use. And one of the questions that we're going to provide you, or that you're supposed to ask, is, do they have an approved security plan by the police department? If their answer is no, then they're not meeting the conditions that we've outlined in here.
Good, thank you.
And I think Jason can probably speak to this better, but the state statute that made cannabis legal has in itself a whole host of security regulations for a dispensary that they have to do merely to get the state license. This puts a second layer of protection for the city on it by saying, in addition to everything, because the statute now reads that they have to comply with all state requirements, in addition to having the safety plan that's approved by us. So in addition to meeting whatever they need to do security-wise to get their state licensure, they would then have to say, what do you, Crest Hill, want as far as a safety plan? And hopefully our police department might have extra things that we want that they would say okay to, or we might say that you've got enough security, but there's still going to be a second level of security looked at.
So Mike, the question I have, what if we get a different governor, and he turns around and he says, I don't want these in the state of Illinois anymore? So then what happens?
Let me get out my crystal ball.
Right.
There would be a lot of undoing and unwinding that would have to occur, and I just don't see, especially with a new governor, is not going to be able to change the largely Democratic legislature that passed this and was behind it. You'd have to probably flip the entire state legislature and the governor.
So, but
Because now that it's law, the governor can't undo this.
This is just worst case scenario question. What if it was changed? Then what?
Oh.
Right?
If it became illegal in the state,
Yes.
then all these businesses would have to close up shop, and everybody would have to amend their ordinances to go back to prohibiting it. I mean,
Right.
that's the worst case scenario.
Could it
Or
be
go back
that
to the medical.
restrictive, or would there be a grandfathering, do you think, all existing? Because I have a hard time believing that somebody would back up on this and lose all those dollars that are on the table right now, because you're used to operating with this much, and now you're gonna take that away. That's just an initial thought.
I mean, I don't know how you could say it's legal for that business, but it's illegal for everybody else. I mean, to me,
Well,
that,
we have
if
some
you're gonna
indication-
criminalize it, you're gonna criminalize
Well, we
it.
have indication of it because it happened in the 20s with Prohibition. That's exactly what happened. Alcohol was
Right.
legal and then became illegal, and
Then it went back to
then
legal.
it went back to legal.
So
again,
the pendulum just
There-
swings,
there-
so.
Mm-hmm.
It would mess a lot of things up.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions from the commissioners?
Yes, I have a question. Has crime increased in the municipalities that have this type of business?
There's never been direct causality to show that cannabis legalization, either medicinal or recreational, has shown a direct causality with an increased crime.
The one thing that I didn't see in all the reading material was what's the age definition of an adult to purchase this?
It's by the way that we wrote it was that we took the definition that was strictly, that is that of the underlying of that of the Illinois Department of Finance professional regulations. We took that, which was exactly that definition, which was already on our books as amended from time to time, because that could change as well.
And what
So to
was
be
that
in
number?
line with that, I don't think
21.
it is a 20, it's
Yeah.
21.
21?
Because we had to change all of our criminal ordinances to allow for people now that are old enough, but we had to still keep the violation if they don't have it in the proper containers. So if Jason were to pull somebody over that
Can we pick
had,
somebody else for this scenario?
if Officer Stiff were to pull somebody over and they had just, you know, a bunch of marijuana loose in the front seat, even though they're over 21, it's legal for them to consume it or use it in whatever fashion that they want. I can't criminalize that. I can't arrest them or cite them for that. But they've got it in a vehicle, and the act says that you still have to have it in an appropriate sealed container when it's in a vehicle. So we had to change and tweak after this state statute passed all of our other ordinances. We didn't just throw them out because there are still certain violations of the Cannabis Act, even though it's legal. So,
Kind of follows the open container of alcohol.
similar.
Right. Okay, is there anybody in the audience that wants to make a comment about this particular request? If you do, you can come to the podium. Okay, no one is coming to the podium, so if we're ready, we can close the public hearing. If I can get a motion to do that.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Plateau closed, and Commissioner Slavozeski the second. Roll call, please.
Jim Plateau,
Yes.
Cheryl Slavazeski,
Yes.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes.
Ken Kirill,
Yes.
Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Public hearing is closed at 7:42. So after hearing all of this, can I have a motion to either approve or deny the request for a zoning code text amendment?
A motion to approve it.
Commissioner Peterson,
Is there a
is there a
second?
second? If there is no second, then the motion will be denied. Do I, as chairman, then have a chance to vote on that? To break that, and how does that work? The chairman can vote?
I don't know whether you can second it. I don't think so. Where's my Robert's rules?
Yeah, usually if there is no second, the motion is denied.
I think
So the motion
dies.
fails, and there could be a new motion to deny? Is that?
Yeah.
Well, the motion would be to deny this amendment. And so, under that standpoint, then, do I have a motion to deny the request for a zoning code text?
I'll make a motion for that.
All right. Commissioner Plateau, motion to deny, second by Commissioner Carroll, to deny the request for a zoning code text amendment. And we have a roll call?
Jim Plateau,
Yes.
Ken Kirill,
Yes.
Cheryl Slavazeski,
Yes.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes. I don't know.
Bill
First
Thomas.
time.
I'm going to say no.
I can't do that, can I?
You can say no.
Okay, no.
So are you you're changing your vote?
Well, if I wanted it approved and it was denied,
You would vote no to deny it.
Okay, then no to deny it.
So 2 noes.
2 noes, 3 yeses.
Mike, would that motion carry?
Does he only vote at a time? He's the
No,
chair.
not
Of course.
Yeah, that's right. So
So
the
3-2
motion
denied.
carries, 3 to 2.
Thank you.
Okay, so then let me word what I think is the motion now. The motion is approved for a zoning code text amendment to allow adult use recreational cannabis dispensaries to do business in the city of Crest Hill as outlined in proposed text amendments to the zoning ordinance, Section 2 definitions, Section 8.2 permitted and special use regulations, and Table 4, Table of permitted and special uses to permit adult use cannabis dispensaries as a special use in B2, B3, M1, and M2 districts with regulations in accordance with the reviewed documents, public testimony, and findings of fact.
No, I think that the motion to recommend the denial to the city council carried. So the recommendation.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, shoot, let's
So the
take a step
recommendation-
backward. Rewind.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the recommendation to the council would be to deny everything that.
Right.
There you go. So
Everything that you
everything I
just
just
read.
said is not an approval,
Right.
it is a denial.
Right.
And just like we say now, the planning commission is only a recommending body, so it now becomes up to the city council to decide what the next step is in this situation.
Final step, yeah.
Okay. Moving on, the third item on the agenda is a discussion to request, a discussion on the request to approve the comprehensive plan sub-area amendment for conceptual Plan B for the Crest Hill Business Park. Once again, is all the paperwork in order?
Yes, it is.
All right, then I would like to ask for another motion to open a public hearing on this matter.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Carroll, motion. Commissioner Slabozewski, second. Roll call, please.
Ken Carroll,
Yes.
Cheryl Slabazeski,
Yes.
Jan Platau.
Yes.
Jeff Peterson.
Yes.
Bill Thomas.
Yes?
Motion carries.
7:47. So this case is going to be about a request for a new truck route through the business park that would connect Division Street to Weber Road. And should I assume you've got some pictures for this one to, so we don't have to get all of our papers out to look at the map? So Tony, I'll let you start it off.
Good evening. This is another city-initiated case, a comprehensive plan sub-area amendment to the 2014 plan. Ron Wiedemann, our city engineer, is here. He's been working on this project since before I got here. I believe Maura was as well. He worked with Tesca Associates, and they developed a couple different land use as well as road corridor plans for the Crest Hill Business Park. As part of this process, we also sent notice out to property owners within the Crest Hill Business Park. I think there were about 15 or so. I wanted to make a note that I did receive one phone call from Mr. Brian Newman, who owns the Fields Nursery that's located right off of Caton, as well as Weber. Talked to him for a little bit of time, and he said he was not going to be in attendance tonight, so I asked him to send an email or a letter, and that is provided on your desk. He sent a short email basically indicating he was not in favor of it. He felt that the corridor plan showing the road kind of bisecting his property was not very viable for him, and that he ultimately would not be interested in selling his property. He said he's turned down numerous developers over the course of time, but I asked him to give us his commentary so we can include it in the record. And then Ron is here this evening, who will discuss how the plan developed. And then we've also provided a recommendation from those alternatives that would eventually be sent to the city council. I'll also add that the next agenda item for INDEC, there's some overlap. We've been working with INDEC, and they're aware of this sub-area plan, and they've designed their project in accordance with our recommendation for the Chernovic, Ladise, and Enterprise road configuration. So there's some compatibility, if you'll notice, in the staff reports as it relates to the road design. With that, I'll let Ron go over the plan.
Ron, I better swear you, and Maura is going to ask why she had to get sworn.
Well, I would have sworn Mara in, so that's okay.
All right, please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Just to give you a little bit of a history here. A couple years ago, City Council was concerned with truck traffic on Division. I presented to them doing a sub-area plan where we would take a look at not just the traffic on Division, but traffic in the park and how to route that traffic and make improvements on Division to help alleviate some of the issues that council was perceiving that was going on Division. So at that point, we went out for RFPs, and we hired and went into an agreement with Tesca, with Christopher Burke, where Tesca was doing the planning portion of it, and Christopher Burke was doing the transportation portion of it. What I'm going to go over right now on these slides is a presentation that we made to council back in June. And then from that meeting, we actually had updates which are being presented to you today based on that meeting. Not sure why that's showing up. So the first thing that we looked at was, obviously, we looked at the existing conditions. You know, what do we have out there now? This area here is basically just outlining what could potentially develop to into a business park. And we're not saying it will, but potentially could. We then looked at what type of businesses that are there now and that are in the area, so we knew what was being attracted to that business park. This here is just kind of a generic one, which kind of shows what is the outlook for this area. Basically, what it's saying is a lot of storage facilities is what is in, and that's what we're getting. That's what a lot of our proposals are for, and that's really what this diagram here is saying. You know, warehousing. You know, we got to be easy access to the expressways, things like that. So that's kind of what's going to drive any development of this business park. This one here is kind of showing what areas would be attracted to this area and the distances. You know, there's rules and guidelines of how far people will go for certain things. That's kind of given us an idea of, you know, drive time. You know, right here we got white is actually the business park itself. Brown kind of shows you a 5-minute drive time around, and a 10-minute green, you know, a drive time around. So there could be businesses in that green area that could get daily deliveries from some of these. So it just kind of, it lets developers and people looking for these things, you know, how far it's going to roughly take them. So this is kind of area that we would attract. So one of the first things we did was we did a traffic analysis. We've had a lot of different developers come in with crazy numbers. So we've decided that we were going to go out and do our own traffic counts, and every developer that came in, we'd use that base, develop that account, adapted for what they're doing, and that would be the base count when somebody else comes in. So therefore, we're not mixing apples and oranges every time somebody comes in. We know exactly what the traffic's going to be, and that was projected out 30 years for, you know, projected for traffic. So our goals here was to basically eliminate the truck route on Division between Chernovic and Weber by creating a new truck route through the business park, to improve the operations at Weber Road by eliminating trucks going eastbound on Division, and to establish a clear plan for accommodating additional cars, trucks generated by the development within the business park.
So, with those goals in mind and starting to take a look at it, we ran through computer analysis of different routes of how to run traffic through here, some of the work that needed to get done. Right here is basically what came out of that analysis, was that we recommend that designate Chernovic Lane as the new designated truck route at Division. Maintain one-way north to eastbound traffic on Enterprise for cars only. Trucks east of Chernovic Lane on Division will be prohibited, and no left-turning trucks to go eastbound on Division at Weber Road. And then we got west of there, Division Street from Chernovic, the new truck route, I'm sorry. So what's not shown there, one of the other recommendations, and it's being handled through a different development, is actually to reconfigure and add some dual left-hand turn lanes and right-hand turn lanes at the intersection of Division at Weber. So we're actually currently working with some developers now to help address that. Even if we get trucks off of that intersection, we still have an issue of getting vehicles through. So as part of this, that development, that intersection improvement is also going to happen, but it's happening outside this comprehensive report. I'm just kind of bringing it to your attention now, so if you had any questions about that. So the new truck route. Basically, we got a typical section here showing what the new truck route would be. It's going to be 3-lane section, 1 lane in each direction, 12 feet wide with a 16-foot wide center median. It would accommodate any walking paths or sidewalks that might, in the future, want to be put through that park. Some of the internal connector roads would just be a 2-lane, 14-foot wide pavement. So that way we're putting something in there into the plan, telling everybody this is what we're looking for this truck route. It also will give Tony some guidance as when development comes in. We'll be looking for right-of-way from these people up front so that we can potentially build this in the future and not have to go after right-of-way. This gives him some guidelines of what we need from each developer as we move forward. Some other improvements that would need to happen, besides just the truck route that would go through the park, was we'd have to construct an eastbound right turn lane on Division at Chernovic Lane. We would widen the Deese Parkway from 2-way traffic between Chernovic and Enterprise. Construct improvements at Division Enterprise to prohibit trucks from making that right-hand turn out of there. And due to channelization and phasing at the Weber and Crest Hill Drive. Part of this process we also kind of looked at as we were putting the plan together, potential development. We wanted to also take a look at how much of the area that we were showing for potential development would be needed for stormwater. So a little analysis went through, we kind of figured out what we would need. We didn't really go into design of where it would be. That'll be designed as development comes in, but it gives us an idea of how much of the total area would be needed for stormwater, which then tells us what's left for development. So then we can figure out the amount of trucks and cars that potentially could be using this road from that park once there's a full build out. Obviously here's just, we used some of the city's existing GIS information to look at the existing utilities that were out there, storm, water, and sanitary, so we can account for that. Obviously, we also looked at the zoning to make sure that the zoning that's currently out there is good. We looked at a future land use map for this, and this is actually out of our existing 2014 comprehensive plan. We didn't change it, no changes to it. I'm just showing you here. Okay, this is the first conceptual analysis that we actually presented this to City Council back in June. Basically, it's using Chernovic Lane, which is right here, running traffic directly south, turning. Now, there was a statement made by Tony about the about Cottonwood Farms. Technically, the only part of this new route that would be on Cottonwood Farms property would be the tie-in here at Weber. This is all running up in the property north of Cottonwood Farms, but we would have to hook into the existing intersection built by the county that they're proposing for us to make an intersection at. So just wanted to kind of make that little change there. There was a little second alternative. The only difference was as well, if Siegel's decided to, sell, even though he's made a statement he does not, this is a potential way it could be developed. We wanted to make the assumption of more traffic than less. So we're assuming that it would get developed so that we wouldn't get ourselves into a problem later if we assume it doesn't get developed and then it does, and now we've built something that can't handle that future traffic. So it's developed or not, this road will handle if he decides to sell. That was concept A. That's what was presented at the first meeting. That was actually the concept that was being pushed by myself and the consultants at that time to City Council. The second alternative was also presented, which is basically Chernovic to Ladis, running directly south, and then this here stays pretty much the same. Now, during that time, City Council had concerns. They didn't want us to just make a decision and go, we're going to go with B and not have justificational reasons. At that particular time, as I outlined in my memo, there was concern with traffic flow of vehicles stopping and trucks stopping and going with this alternative. Since that time, we've worked with the developer that as our later presentation with INDEC, we worked him to actually resolve all of the issues that we had. So basically, this alternative is then outlined in my memo. There is 6 actually reasons why this actually now becomes a preferred alternative, is that we've created, they're going to allow us to have enough right-of-way that we can create a roadway here that will free flow. So basically, trucks will come in off a division. There'll be no stop sign here. It'll be a curve. There'll be another curve here, and eventually we'll have a curve down here. So the issue with trucks starting and stopping, you have pollution, and you also just obviously you lose your capacity. So when we ran the analysis on both of these different alignments, they both came out with the same level of services that we had. So there was no difference between the level of service. They're both going to operate the same 50 years from now when this is developed. There's also some other things that I put in the memo there where there is some financial contributions from INDEC that's going to happen. There's some right-of-way contributions from INDEC that's going to happen, along with parts of this road will actually be built now so that we start showing progress towards building this new truck route. Basically, the last one here is just the same one as I talked about before, same alignment concept B, except we're just showing if this potentially gets developed. Again, we would probably put in another little road that comes down here that would tie into City Center Boulevard. This would be one of those interior roads, but it just allows for further development. But again, we wanted to make sure that the road that we're putting in would handle any future traffic that came out. So that is the end of the presentation. If you have any questions on what I've outlined here, I'm happy to answer those.
I may have missed it, but the light at Crest Hill Drive, that's on Siegel property?
The light is not on Siegel property.
Not the light, but I mean
the intersection that goes to his property, part of it is county. The county has built an intersection there for future road.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so his property is involved in some way or another?
It'll be involved one way or another for us to make this connection.
Okay.
That is not, again, that would be discussed way off into the future when we get to that point. But at some point for us to make that connection yes, we would have to approach them in order to physically make that connection. Our plan is to minimize it as much as possible. That's why the road was shifted up. So that we would not be affecting his property as much as we can.
Understood.
But eventually, some point, we have to come down because they just don't align.
Okay, thank you.
So let me ask you a couple of points that I tried to remember here. First of all, if there is a truck that's leaving the west and going east on Division, they would no longer go any further than Chernovic.
Correct.
So, and that would be a restriction for a certain tonnage.
Correct.
Of
It will
truck.
be, we'll have signing that'll be out there for it. Also, there's currently, they can't turn into Enterprise right now.
Right.
The way it's is. We're gonna even make it more difficult. So.
So that would be unchanged for that particular example then? right?
Correct, correct.
And in the example, if there was a company like Indec in that location and they wanted to send a truck westbound, they would then go out Chernovic
Yeah,
and
they would
turn
go out,
left?
they would go out Chernovic, yes. Yeah, the way it's currently running now would be the same. So anybody that comes in, they're gonna come off of Chernovic. And, I mean, until we build the entire piece, right now, everything's gonna act exactly the way it does today. They're gonna come in Chernovic, they're gonna come down to Ladis, and if they wanna go westbound on a Division, they have to go back to Chernovic. If they wanna go eastbound, they could technically use Enterprise. That will not change. That will only change when we finally punch out to Weber Road.
Okay. But now you would let cars come in Enterprise where right now they can only go out.
Correct. Well, no, not right now. No, that's gonna stay, it's exactly the same way it is today.
So cars that that are workers, they still can't come in
It's
Enterprise?
right now, it's staying the same.
Okay. Okay. Well, you know, people like Ken and I who live residential just down the street from there, we can see what's happening as we get more and more truck business in that business park.
It's
I
turning around.
almost don't like to even think about making a left turn off of Division onto Weber at certain times of the day because of the traffic, and that left turn signal doesn't
tough.
stay,
Right.
the arrow doesn't stay there a very
No.
long time.
No, and one of the first things I did when I got here was to actually lengthen the left-hand turn lane at Division at Weber, because what was happening is even though the road was wide enough, trucks would stay in the through lane and not allow people to either go straight or make a right. So we striped out a 450-foot long left-hand turn lane. It doesn't get all the trucks through. And the only way to get additional trucks through the intersection is to provide a dual left, because the county will never give the city more green time. Okay? The green time all goes. So whatever green time we currently have now is all we're ever gonna get. So the only way to push more traffic through is to double up and have dual lefts. So the final improvement at that intersection, we'll have dual lefts, a through lane, and a right-hand turn lane. Again, that's a separate project, but it is somewhat related to this, because even if the 75 acres on the corner develops, that's gonna generate traffic, so we still need to deal with that intersection. But the plan is to get the trucks off of that intersection someday and have them use an appropriate roadway that gets into the park. And the other thing I didn't else mention, that new truck route will be built to full concrete, so it'll handle all the truck traffic. It'll actually, even though we're not going to encourage it, but in certain cases, there'll be center lane where they can do a staging, but it will be within the business park, not on Division. So there'll be certain times of the year, the holidays probably, or Amazon, it's got the extra truck traffic going through there. So trying to accommodate all of that in this new truck route.
Would that new extension going out to Weber now be still called Enterprise? Is Enterprise gonna be that whole street that goes out
No,
there?
we haven't gotten that far. That's a city council decision. More than likely, I would think they're gonna call it the east-west, will probably be called Crest Hill Drive.
Okay.
But they could name it anything,
And would car
that's up to them.
traffic be prohibitive from going out or going in?
Car traffic can use that. Yeah. If somebody wants to cut the corner at Division at Weber, they could technically go through that way if they wanted to. But
Old Dominion now, right now, they go down Enterprise Drive, and with this new concept, they're gonna have to go all the way around with the new truck route and get onto Division Street if they're going west, off of Chernobyl.
Right, yeah, I mean, when this punches through, obviously, if they want to go north or south on Weber, they're gonna have to go south here and exit here. If they want to go west on Division, they can come back to, just like they do today, that wouldn't change.
Right.
They would go back to Chernobyl and then obviously make a left, and then they can go westbound.
Okay, because I was out there today and I noticed that, they go right straight north down Enterprise, and then they hang a right and go east on Division Street. So now what they're gonna have to do, go the other way now.
Yeah, they'll just end up going south a little bit and coming out here at this light. So
Okay.
basically what we're doing is instead of doing this right now and clogging up this intersection, they'll come this way, and if they stack up here, we removed all of that traffic off of Division.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, any comments from the city? Tony? or-
Just a couple quick comments. First, I want to apologize to the Chernovic family. I spelled their name wrong every time in the staff report. I just noticed that, and spell check doesn't check those types of things. Second point, so this is a comprehensive plan. It's a long-term planning document, so this road will not next year be punched out to Weber Road. It's going to take some time,
Right.
but working with developers like Indec, having a plan in place will allow us to slowly build the road and get monetary contributions for future extensions. I just want to make that point clear. And then third, this is not a new concept. Our 2014 plan, and I don't have the page number, but showed a similar configuration. The plan, or that snapshot of that area, was called the Advantage Avenue and Enterprise Boulevard roadway configuration. So it was very similar, but going through this process, we wanted to kind of reevaluate and readopt this portion of the plan based upon the new data that we really have now, because some of these industrial warehouse trucking facilities were not located out there at the time. So this allowed us to reevaluate to determine if we wanted to change the configuration at all. And it stayed very similar, but it will be somewhat of a fresh document, recent, and we can use that going forward.
Commissioners, any other questions? Anybody in the audience like to make a comment? Yes, please come to the podium and sign in.
Oh, good, it's big. I'm Wendy Taube, and I'm an attorney for Indec Crest Hill. And I just wanted to make a point
Let
of...
me swear
Sure.
you in first. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
No, sorry about that. I just want to make a point of clarification. I keep hearing the developer Indec. Indec is the owner. The developer is Panatone. And so conversations have been with Panatone. So
I apologize.
Okay, thank you for that.
yes, that was it.
Okay, any other comments? And get a motion to close the public hearing.
Make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Plateau,
Second.
second by Commissioner Slabazeski. Roll call, please.
Dan Plateau,
Yes.
Cheryl Slabazeski,
Yes.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes.
Ken Kirill,
Yes,
Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so, I guess at this point, we've had our discussion, so can I get a motion to approve or deny the recommendation to approve the request for a sub-area plan amendment for conceptual Plan B?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Plateau motion, Commissioner Slabazeski as a second. And let's do another roll call, please.
Jan Plateau?
Yes?
Cheryl Slabazeski?
Yes.
Ken Carroll?
Yes.
Jeff Peterson?
Yes.
Bill Thomas?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So, the Planning Commission has approved the request for the sub-area plan amendment for conceptual Plan B, and we will forward our recommendation to the City Council. Again, keeping in mind, Planning Commission is a recommending body only, and will there be a date in the future when the City Council will take this up again?
I think we're going to look at the workshop for October 10th as well.
October 10th? Columbus Day. Okay. Okay. Hang in there. Only one more to go. The fourth item on the agenda is the case PUD 22-1-9-1. I have from INDEC, but it's actually going to be
Panatoni.
Anatoni, okay. Is the paperwork all in order with that correction?
We have the paperwork.
Green cards, John, did you? Yep, we're good, yes.
Okay. Okay, so let's open another public hearing so we can discuss this. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Plateau. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Carroll. Roll call, please.
Jan Plateau?
Yes?
Ken Carroll?
Yes.
Jeff Peterson?
Yes.
Cheryl Slabazeski?
Yes.
Bill Thomas?
Yes,
Motion carries.
public hearing opened at 8:16. So, Tony, you want to start us off here?
This is another PUD request by Panatoni. It also includes a plat of dedication. The scope of the project is a 37-acre property for construction of a speculative warehouse, office building potentially of approximately 580,000 square feet, consisting of 300 plus automobile parking stalls, 155 trailer stalls, and 133 loading docks. The petitioner is here this evening, John Pagliari from Panatoni, who can provide a brief summary of the project if you'd like. There's a staff recommendation in your packet, and as I mentioned with the previous application, we've been working with Panatoni, not INDEC, Panatoni on the road configuration because of our selection with alternative B. We've been working with Panatoni and including that as part of their plans in the form of right-of-way dedications to be consistent with that configuration, as well as some initial discussions about a monetary contribution for the eventual extension of enterprise. And John Pagliari is here if you have any questions.
First of all, the building is beautiful. There's no denying that. It's a gorgeous looking building. Do any of the commissioners have any questions about what they would like to do?
I take it the stormwater basin will be sized to accommodate all the runoff that'll be generated from the building, the parking lot.
Now, why don't you come up there and sign in?
Bill, can I get the paperwork that I need from you? Thank you, Laura.
John, if you raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, was there a question regarding
Okay,
the,
stormwater, those two basins that you've got out there, they will be sized to accommodate the entire runoff from the building and the parking areas and the center?
yes,
And then they will be more or less like a silt collector, and then from there, the water will go on to the existing stormwater.
correct,
Or,
right. And Maura and her group will be overseeing all of that as we submit those final engineering plans. But yes, we've put together preliminary plans, and what we've designed here seem to work. So we'll, finalize that with for Robinson and their approval.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I thought the paperwork preparation was very well written and easy to understand, very detailed. Anybody in the audience have any comment they'd like to make about this request? Well, all right then, if we're going to make it kind of easy on you here, if we'll have them.
I'm just going to make a couple comments. One, the staff recommendation did not include findings of fact. I caught that a little later on in the game. Since that point, John's group has sent me over findings of fact, which I have included on your desk. So you can include those if you're making a recommendation for approval of the PUD, subject to those findings of fact. And I believe Chairman Thomas caught an error in the recommendation. There's actually 6 conditions, not 8, in the staff report. And I want to mention one of them was some modest increases to the landscaping at the southwest corner of the site. There's not extensive landscaping on site, but my initial reaction is it can be enhanced in that corner, which is not directly in proximity to the residential, but it would be better to have more of a barrier there with some additional landscaping because there is a residential subdivision to the southwest. Other than that, staff has recommended approval subject to the findings of fact and the 6 conditions identified in the staff report.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to have a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion.
I will give this to Commissioner Carroll and second by Commissioner Plateau. Roll call, please.
Ken Carroll,
Yes.
Jan Plateau,
Yes.
Cheryl Slabazeski,
Yes.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes.
Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Closed at 8:22. Okay, then can I have a motion to approve or deny the request for PUD 22-1-9-1 for a PUD and plat of dedication for the development of a 597,000 square feet speculative industrial warehouse/office building in the Crest Hill Business Park?
Make a motion to approve?
And is the
Second.
motion to approve with the findings of fact referenced by Tony and the 6 reference
Good
conditions?
point. Yeah, I have added that when I talk about the
I just
approval.
made the
but-
assumption that was.
Yeah,
I
okay.
just want to make a clear record.
I'll state it again here in a second. Okay, Commissioner Carroll motion and Commissioner Slabazeski for the second. Roll call, please.
Ken Carroll,
Yes.
Cheryl Slabazeski,
Yes.
Jan Plateau,
Yes.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes.
Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So the Planning Commission has approved the request contingent on the 6 conditions discussed and the finding of fact. And the recommendation will be forwarded to the City Council. Again, keeping in mind that we are a recommending body only, and they will hear your case from this point on. And do we have an idea of
I think we're looking at the October 10th as
October
well.
10th? So we're going to keep them as busy as we were kept tonight on October 10th. We'll get back at them.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for appearing. Okay, is there any other business that we have not brought up? Are there any public comments that need to be made? Anybody want to make a public comment? No one is coming forward to do that. So with that, can I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
I'll make that motion.
All right,
Second
Commissioner
that.
Peterson.
Somebody's got second that one.
Commissioner Slabakowski for the second. Roll call, please.
Jeff Peterson.
Yes.
Cheryl Slabzewski.
Yes.
Jan Platouc.
Yes.
Ken Kiro.
Yes.
Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Meeting adjourned at 8:25.